I'm Keith Ghostland.
I'm Ann Charles.
I'm Linda Quinlan, and welcome to All Things LGBTQ. Today is Tuesday, April 10th, and I think we'll start with headlines.
Just a few things. She's made it official, and it's got to be the worst kept secret in Vermont. Changes to the state's prescription formulary for state employees. Does it truly exclude treatment for the transgender employees? Vermont Pride Day. Does it really need to be held on Rosh Hashanah? April. It's Sexual Violence Awareness Month. And yes, I'm going to depress you. Just two headlines and will not be stories. There is a coalition of states' attorney general that are challenging Health and Human Services' conscientious objection rule, which would allow them to refuse treatment based on religious or moral beliefs. Yes, Vermont is one of the attorney generals. And the other is that census question that asks for citizenship. There are 16 attorney generals that are challenging that. Yes, Vermont is again included. I'm going to talk about Toronto and serial killers and homophobia within law enforcement, and it's not an uplifting story. And this edition's trivia question, introduced on the 10th of February, 1987 by lead sponsor Mick Glitman of Burlington. House Bill H-247 would have prohibited discrimination based on sexual or affectional orientation. There were, I know, at least one time. There were 11 co-sponsors. Any of them still serving? And as just an aside, there are currently 110 anti-LGBTQ bills that have been introduced on a state basis across the country, but there's 159 pro-LGBTQ bills that have been introduced. So what you got?
Well, I have some international news. Bad news from Ghana. Good news from Costa Rica. The French Parliament votes to protect asylum seekers. Japanese city of 1.5 million people recognizes same-sex partnerships in a landmark move. Then the stories I won't get to are the first ever Pride Parade in Swaziland is being planned. New Zealand passes a law to erase historical gay sex convictions. LGBT website gay.ru blocked within Russia. That's not a surprise, really. And two gunmen in Pakistan kill a transgender woman and a friend. So those are the headlines.
So should we have cruises to
Oh, well, that
instead of
whole
Bermuda?
thing, Carnival has joined a lawsuit against the Bermudan government, and it's all being played out. And
Well, good.
I'll keep you posted as things happen of significance.
All righty.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Thank you for having the answer. In Alabama, father and his girlfriend rape and sodomize an 11-year-old autistic son because they feared he was gay. Dartmouth alumni recounts Laura Ingram's bullying of gay students even when she was in college. Fox host Tucker Carlson says there's no transgender community. San Francisco mayor candidate Mark Lino. And I have a very cute pig story. And Pat Robinson's quote of the day, A Murder in D.C., queer literary classic Stone Butch Blues, Overlooked No More, Wells Fargo, and Air Force Secretary discusses transgender military in the Air Force. So those are my headlines.
Pig story.
I know,
You're trying
big
to
one.
compete
I can't
with a
wait.
bisexual goose.
I know it. And the tortoise, the Australian
I'm
tortoise.
not going
Yeah,
there.
that was a good one.
I can't compete. So, Sunday, April 8th, Christine Holquist
Running
for governor. And you may recall that Anne interviewed Christine on several shows ago. She will be the first openly transgender woman running for a gubernatorial race any place in the country. And as part of her platform, she said her priorities are economic development, completing the fiber optic network so that we all can connect.
Haven't I heard this like for the last 10 years? Never mind.
15.
15.
Decreasing the cost of health care and increasing the minimum wage. Very familiar sounding. And talking about healthcare costs, as people may know, the Vermont Labor Board recently ruled in favor of the Scott administration in their challenge or their best offer against the State Employees Association. And as a piece of that, there was a large list of medications that were distributed to state employees saying these medications would not be covered under the plan that is scheduled to take effect in January of 2019. And several members of the transgender community looked at it, and it increased an incredible sense of panic because their meds that they are taking for their transition were included on that list. So there was a conversation that might have happened between one of the liaisons in the office of the governor, where it was disclosed that what was missing from the list of medications that would not be covered was the complement list that identified, and these are the alternatives or generic forms that the plan would cover. So we're still looking to see if that crosswalk is going to be shared with state employees so that it will alleviate that sense of panic.
And there is sometimes when generics just aren't available.
And there's supposed to be an
You
appeal
know?
process, but again, the letter that went out to state employees did not identify how you would initiate it, the forms or the documentation that would be required, or how long that decision might take. And very quickly, Pride Day, Rosh Hashanah, any problem with having a big, lovely parade down the middle of Burlington on a high holy day within the Jewish culture? So the Pride Center, who sponsors the Pride Day festivities, was contacted, and after a series of phone calls and an explanation of culture and tradition, Pride Day will now be on Saturday, September 8th, instead of Sunday, September 9th, which was Rosh Hashanah.
That's hard to believe, isn't it?
And this
I
is
mean,
the second
And
year in a row.
this would have been the second year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to the credit of Liz, the new Pride Center board member who aggressively pursued this when contacted and said that in this era of increasing anti-Semitism, why are we, as we try to be an inclusive community, truly offending a large segment?
Absolutely. Good for them.
So on that cheery news, you're going to take us to Ghana.
I am, with some sad stories. A Ghanaian man whose partner was lynched by an anti-gay mob flees for his life. A crowd of anti-gay youths broke into Kwaku Adepa Richie Dallas's, broke into the Osei John's apartment. He was 34. They stripped him naked and lynched him because of the belief that he was gay. They then turned up at his partner's home, Kwaku Adepa Richie Dallas, who's 28, but he'd been tipped off and could flee before the killers arrived. Osei John, the slain man's family, is calling for justice, as police say it's difficult to pin down who is responsible. Kwaku, his partner's relatives, meanwhile, are imploring the Inspector General of Police to provide security. The family is reportedly still under attack from irate youth over their relative's suspected homosexuality, and in an attempt to ascertain his whereabouts so that they can eliminate what they hope to be what they believe to be the curse of homosexuality, they're pursuing him. Violence against the LGBT community in Ghana has been a problem for years. Consensual sex among same-sex adult men is still illegal, punishable by years in prison. In the past, we've talked about the U.S. ambassador to Ghana speaking hopefully about the future of LGBT Ghanaians. Similarly, the president speaks of homosexuality eventually being accepted. And we've shown a clip of him in the past, but on the ground it doesn't look so good. And now I would like to show you a clip about lesbians in Ghana.
I started to think that I was a lesbian when I was in my senior secondary school. At times I sit and question myself, is this normal? Why am I doing this? Could it be that I'm far from house, lonely, and this happened? I tried to change by getting myself a boyfriend, but it didn't work. Ghanaian society doesn't accept me for who I am. Because according to them, being a lesbian, it means you are possessed and there's a bad spirit or bad omen following you.
In the Criminal Offences Act of Ghana, Act 29 talks about unnatural carnal knowledge. Now, unnatural carnal knowledge over the years has been interpreted to mean that anything that is not penile-vaginal is an offense. It doesn't matter if it is two men or two women or a man and a woman. It is a crime against the law for anybody to be in any activity, sexual activity that is not penile-vaginal.
I heard it on radio that the people of the town were saying they are looking for a lesbian who is a witch, and she's the reason why the town is not having access to water, and she's been sleeping with every girl in the community. And I didn't know it was in reference to me. I thought it was someone else. I was asleep one night and a group of men broke into my apartment and stripped me naked to see if I had a male organ. They dragged me outside. Then there was a bonfire set. They poured petrol on me. All those that I thought they help when you are in need, they were all present. The chief, the pastors, the police. I saw there was no place to turn to.
And lady no attitude ne hani papa wo ne le aka man money ke yo de ne ke we papa le ho e mi fu papa ba we baskata no fe no echu ko e gbla clanting no wa fe echu ebushi me pi ye ken na kan ne je ka cho bi le fo at least o banyo ko lo wi mo ko cho mon banyo chakele but je no ko bibio you know, you really blow me. Jeno Kuno. Biane Ken Nale, Sunny must swap in Grandma Toy Commando. Niho.
Me papa attack me at the bottle, ebe wall. Oh, you're not just saying, they want me a plummy. Ama, see, who cry and me will finish a man who atona. Nemo. Now, or the bottle nayan and ebe wall. When I. Minyati tunnels free attacking. Emma, and no one catch me say me a lesbian. It's your mom for me go hospital. Even say me who cry and form. Mean to me uncle because to see a Soboko police station. I just have bribe police in him. Means me ni scanner. Me they a bribe police.
So when there's violence, LGBT people do not go to the police. They are uncomfortable to go to the police to report because of the existence of that law, and people use it as a means to abuse and to make people feel and they're illegal in their existence.
I was actually suspended indefinitely because I'm a lesbian. I just had to come home and face reality. My parents don't take care of me at all. No money for food, nothing. Even when I'm sick, they ignore me. And it's just heartbreaking knowing you have a family but don't have a family. And the kind of love I expect from my family, I get it from them, from the LGBT community.
There have been several human rights programs hosted here, and I had the privilege to attend some of them. And I realized being a lesbian is not illegal. You have the right to your own feelings, so they should be treated fairly as the way they treat every human. Because we are all human, no matter our sexual difference. I have hope that it will happen, but I know it will take time.
Well, that was an interesting clip. Very,
That's,
very hard to watch.
yes, that's the end of my first segment.
Okay. And I have a few short headlines, and then I will. Denver is about to get more colorful. City Councilman Jolyn Clark has been raising money for rainbow crosswalks in the neighborhood used for gay pride.
Isn't that nice?
Bob Dylan and Keisha and
Kesha.
Kesha?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been corrected
Thank
many
you.
times
Well,
about
now-
When
that.
did you become updated on pop
So,
culture?
yeah. Keith, you just don't know how hip I am.
Well, the fact that you're using the term hip tells a great.
Oh, stop!
Go ahead.
Gotcha there. They flipped gender preferences for a new LGBT-focused album. Dylan reworks the 1929 pop standard "She's Funny That Way," and Kesha revises Joplin's "I Need a Man to Love Me." So that should be interesting. Maryland has become the 11th state to ban the use of ex-gay therapy on minors by state-run agencies. So that's good news. And as we reported last week about the anti-trans measure in Anchorage, it was defeated by a good margin. So we're happy about that. Good news from Anchorage. Protesters in LA block intersection to protest inequality at UCLA. Homophobe who sued congressman displaying pride flag loses because he was making the claim that the rainbow umbrellas were a religious symbol.
Really?
Yes.
Who was making the homophobe?
The homophobe. They didn't list who the homophobe was.
Okay.
Christine-
An unidentified homophobe.
Unidentified homophobe.
We wouldn't give him airtime anyway.
Really? Christine Garcia, a California lawmaker, admits using slurs for gay colleagues and is facing allegations of sexual harassment by her fellow Democrats. She does deny
All
that
church.
she did it. That she said faggot or any of those things. So we'll see about that.
Wouldn't pass my lips.
And excuse me. And a very sad story took place in Alabama, where an Alabama father had his girlfriend rape and sodomize an 11-year-old autistic son because he feared he was gay. Sean Cole, 29, and his girlfriend Kahijah Moore, 21, of Huntsville, Alabama, were convicted Tuesday of rape and sodomy and the sexual abuse of a child under the age of 12. They both face up to life in prison and are slated to be sentenced on May 24th. Moore is considered a fugitive after she failed to attend the trial, and a warrant for her arrest has been issued by the trial judge. Cole has been behind bars since the arrest in January. The sexual abuse occurred during Thanksgiving 2016 when the 11-year-old boy, who lives in Georgia with his mother, visited his father for the holiday. Cole allegedly discovered the boy in a compromising position with another boy and became furious, prosecutors say. So. And Dartmouth alumni recounts Laura Ingram's bullying of gay students even when she was in college.
The Dartmouth
She's a
Review.
charmer. Ingrams was editor of a conservative newspaper at Dartmouth. She sent a reporter to a secret meeting of students who, they had this meeting for students who were not out.
Right.
And it was a support group for them. This was in 1984. And then when the reporter gave her the information he had gotten at this meeting, she made the transcript public.
She outed them.
Yes.
Much like the incident at the Pride Center.
And as the editor of the Dartmouth Review, she called gay people sodomites. Jay Burkhold, leader of the Gay Association, said it was profound for a bullying, that, you know, she had done this a lot. The News Fox reporter, who also mocked Haig, the student.
The student.
Yeah.
Hog.
Haig, I think is H-A-G.
Okay. I told
think.
you, G, but,
Yeah.
you know, who knows?
I'll let the two of you fight it out.
A student from Florida school, student, you know, by making fun of him because he had only a 4.2, which isn't really bad, right?
And she said he
He
was
applied to 4 colleges and got rejected. So she was making fun of him, and because of that, a lot of her, what is it, sponsors?
Sponsors,
Yeah.
Advertisers.
Advertisers just dropped her like a hot potato. We're glad to hear that. Now, if she could lose her job, that would be even better.
Wouldn't it be? I'm
Yes.
hoping for that.
Yes.
Which leads me right into Sexual Violence Awareness Week.
Yes.
Nice segue. Right. If you see people wearing either a teal-colored circle or rainbow or ribbon, that is the symbol for sexual violence awareness and prevention. And looking at our communities, and I've said these statistics before, and they don't get any better. You know, our communities experience sexual violence at an equal and in most cases higher level than the straight community does. 44% of lesbians and 61% of bisexual women have experienced rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner, compared to 35% of straight women. 26% of gay men and 37% of bisexual men have experienced rape, physical violence, or stalking, as compared to a much lower percentage of heterosexual men. 46%, and this is always staggers me, 46% of bisexual women have been raped, compared to 17% of heterosexual women and 13% of lesbians. So you wonder about the anger with potentially disclosure and retaliation by a partner, or if it goes into the intimate partner
Yeah.
violence as well. It is one of the issues that's prevalent within our community, and we don't really talk about it that much. If somebody approaches you and discloses to you that they're either a sexual or domestic violence survivor, please listen. Please be supportive. Please, you know, don't ask them, you know, well, what did you do to provoke this? You know,
Yeah.
how could you have prevented it? Couldn't you have fight
Could you
back?
be nicer?
Just listen, be supportive, try and get them to services. Toronto, and this is a little longer conversation. As people may be aware, the Toronto police have recently arrested a 66-year-old man and charged him with 6 counts of first-degree murder. And this is despite the Toronto police having told the gay community in Toronto since 2010 that, oh, no, there is not a serial killer. You know, these are just random acts. Now they're saying maybe they're wrong. And
Well, after they dug up all the yards, right? And I mean,
well, and they are now currently saying that they don't think that they have accounted for all of, and that there may be more out there, and they need to be more expansive in their investigation. Expansive in their investigation actually takes us back to 1975 in Toronto and on what is Yonge Street that would develop into the gay village, where between 1975 and 1978, there were 14 murders of gay men, 7 of which were never solved. And oh my, looking back at it, Those 7 unsolved murders look very much like the 6 attributed to this serial killer. And when they've looked at this person's past, oh my, he was moved into a work environment right off Yonge Street in 1975 and then was transferred someplace else in 1978.
When then the murder stopped, right?
When that series of murders, and they all had the same MO. And criminologists looking at the patterns of serial killers, is very unusual for someone to begin their practice at the ripe old age of 66. That most commonly occurs late 20s, early 30s, which would have been his age in 1975. And where I'm going with this is that one of the real problems in investigating this is the level of distrust between the gay community and law enforcement. Law enforcement at that point in time were raiding the bars. They were openly harassing and arresting gay men for consensual sexual activities. There was a tradition on Halloween of a Halloween parade all up and down Yonge Street. The drag queens who were performing were routinely threatened. They had rocks thrown at them. They were beaten, and law enforcement didn't respond. But you need to come tell me the names of all of the people you know in the community so we can investigate missing persons and murder. I don't think so. And as all of this has been coming out, Toronto police have also been charged with being racist and have a phobia against the immigrant community. And the level of tension has reached a point whereby the Toronto police have just withdrawn their application to be able to march in the Pride Day parade in uniform. And if people remember last year, Black Lives Matters actually stopped the parade because law enforcement were involved. So on that cheery...
Well, I have good news from Costa Rica.
Okay. Where we may be going, because Toronto is not the paradise anymore.
And also, we can't go to Bermuda. So
We certainly cannot.
we can go to Costa Rica.
Good, I'm ready.
All right.
Well, there's been a lot of buildup to this election for president in Costa Rica, and it's turned on gay issues. Both of the candidates are named Alvarado, although they are not related. The center-left presidential hopeful Carlos Alvarado Casada, whose picture is now before you, took an insurmountable lead in the presidential runoff on Sunday. He won 60% of the vote in a race that exposed deep divisions in the country over gay rights and religion. Fabricio, his opponent, is called, that's his nickname. His real name is Alvarado again, Munoz. He's a Pentecostal singer, and known
They
for
have them there too?
yes, he's known for religious ballads and so forth. He's a 43-year-old former TV journalist. What happened was the Inter-American Council on Human Rights advised South American and Caribbean countries to grant same-sex rights to all of their citizens. And some countries have gone along with it and some haven't. Fabricio, the Pentecostal singer, called this Inter-American Court of Human Rights decision an affront to traditional values and sovereignty. He threatened to remove the country from the court's jurisdiction, and his opponent won. Mr. Alvarado Casada backed the court's ruling. In the campaign's final debate, he called his opponent's comments homophobic, and the homophobe lost. So, good news from Costa Rica.
Yes.
As a follow-up, 109 people are lining up for a gender and name change on their ID cards. We have a picture of some people waiting in the office to have this occur. Costa Rica decided to comply with the advisory opinion of the Inter-American Court on Human Rights, of which I just spoke. It's not figured out exactly how to do so, but the court ordered that all 20 countries under its jurisdiction guarantee same-sex couples all existing rights for heterosexual couples. It insists on the right to change documents to one's self-perceived gender identity. This can now be done in Costa Rica without requirements such as medical or psychological certifications. Additionally, this must be confidential with no note in the records as to previous name or identity. So Costa Rica is going along with this advice, and it's got a new president who supports gay rights. Other good news comes from France, where the French Parliament's Legislative Committee has voted almost unanimously to support a measure that protects LGBT asylum seekers from deportation if they stand to face punishment for their sexuality in their home country. The amendment was passed by France's lower house. It seeks to exclude countries that penalize homosexuality from France's official list of safe countries of origin. Under current law, asylum seekers who come to France from a country on this list can be deported through a fast-track system, even if they make an appeal. India, Ghana, which we've just heard about, and Senegal would be withdrawn under this proposed change. If the amendment is passed by the Senate, migrants who come from countries which penalize same-sex relationships will be able to make an appeal, and if their asylum request is rejected, they can appeal without risking deportation in the process. An MP hailed the measure, saying, how can we call countries which criminalize people safe countries? Today there are asylum seekers who come to our country because they've been persecuted for sexual orientation. It was indispensable to change the definition of a safe country and to reiterate that there are only a handful of countries in the world where LGBT people are rejected. There is a French NGO that supports refugees. It lauds the vote as a good thing, but says that other countries may not have laws that forbid homosexuality, but are not necessarily more safe for LGBT people who may still suffer rampant homophobia. So they're challenging the whole idea of a safe country. But this is a good step in France to recognize that, you know.
There are probably only 10 good countries in the world.
Maybe.
And I'm not sure we're one of them anymore.
I know.
No kidding, no kidding.
I'm thinking of asylum, but I'm not so sure about Canada
Yeah.
anymore.
Let's talk quickly, if we may, I don't mean to interrupt you, about the Japanese city of 1.5 million that recognizes same-sex partnerships. The city on the northern coast of the island of Kyushu is the second biggest in the country to recognize same-sex partners. Last year, Sapporo became the first major city in Japan to issue official partnership vow papers to those who wish to enter legal same-sex unions. 7 cities and wards have now legalized same-sex partnerships. The unions carry some of the same benefits as marriage. Same-sex marriage is still illegal in Japan and across Asia. The mayor of Fukuoka, which is the name of the city, gave out the first official partnership certificate to a couple at City Hall. Henri Ishiki, a 33-year-old transgender man and outspoken LGBT activist, was legally recognized as being in a union with 27-year-old Yiho Yamashita, and there's a picture of them I'd like to show you. In January, the Japanese government ordered hotel unions owners to stop discriminating against LGBT guests. Last year, it was decided that children in Japan will not be taught about LGBT issues for at least 10 years after the government decided to include it in the curriculum. But a record number of people attended Tokyo Pride, and I have 2 young men before you with very striking T-shirts. For the first time, the country legislated to protect against bullying. It's also seen as first trans man elected into public office. A city in Japan became the first to recognize a first same-sex couple as foster parents. So things are looking up in Japan. It's a mixed bag, but very interesting.
Well, it's kind of the way we did things in this country. Like one state had it, one state didn't, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, finally it progressed. So we'll see.
Marriage was legal everywhere.
Yeah. This story I really like is that Justice Department employee Diane Flynn is a transgender woman who was appointed by Reagan during the Reagan administration. And she leaves the Justice Department to work for Lambda Legal Defense.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Good for her.
I really like that.
She's come away from the dark side.
Yes.
Better late than never.
And Leslie Mumford becomes the first transgender woman to go to the FBI Academy.
Oh.
So that's good. And I wanted to tell people that, you know, like we did the American Legion thing last time, and a transgender boy was not allowed to go to their like summer camp thing. Anyway, they have reversed that in this particular case, and he will be going. So that's good news, huh? I was really surprised to hear
So
that.
am I.
I have a little clip here of San Francisco mayoral candidate Mark Lino, who announced his first TV ad called Making History. The announcement came on the 40th anniversary of the anti-discrimination bill that was passed. And so here is the clip of this mayor's ad.
Mark Leno came to San Francisco in 1978, young, out, and proud. Built a small business at 55 Brady Street, met the love of his life. And when Mark lost his partner to AIDS, he gave himself to community service. The first gay man ever elected to the Senate, Mark passed landmark laws for marriage equality, civil rights, and a $15 minimum wage. Now he's fighting for a new direction for San Francisco. Mark Leno for mayor. Make history. Change history.
And then I have a really fun pig story. Esther isn't just your typical 650-pound pig. She has two gay dads.
Yes.
Oh.
Esther strolls the grounds of their farm sanctuary named in her honor. Cornelius the turkey follows, and the dogs Shelby and Reuben accompany her on her jaunts, as do her dads, Steve Jenkins and Derek Walter. The cats.
Oh, I thought they were pig dads.
They are the fathers of the pigs.
Oh,
Of
okay.
the pig.
Okay.
No, you're right. They're humans.
Okay.
They're humans.
Yeah. Okay.
The cats stay behind. Esther's dads have chronicled the adventures of Esther the pig. Esther's non-traditional family embodies love and acceptance. And you'll love this. She has also inspired, Esther has, vegan cooking show on YouTube that Jenkins and Walter host. So give them a YouTube look. So,
Well, my mother never ate pork after she saw Babe.
I know.
Just saying.
Oh.
Power of media.
Okay.
And a lovely quote from Pat Robinson. And,
He's
you know, we love
back.
him. He's just been around for, 100 years? Anyway, this is his quote. We have given ground to a small minority. You figure lesbians are 1% of the population. Homosexuals are 2%. That's all. That's statistically all. But they have dominated the media. They have taken over our universities. To the moral majority, it's time to wake up.
Okay.
But at least we didn't send a hurricane towards the coast in retaliation for advancing rights. Remember him?
Yes, I do.
So, no, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I won't have time, I'll have to do these other stories later, but the queer literary classic Stone Butch Blues is being turned into a movie against the author's wishes. She made it, Leslie Feinberg, the author, said before her death, I do not want to have this story made into a movie, that they could not tell the story better than she did. So she didn't want it. It was published in 1993, and it follows the life of Jesse Goldberg, a blue-collar worker in Buffalo, Ian's hometown. One of the first books to explore the complexities of gender identity. Before her death in 2014, she made it perfectly clear that she did not want her book made into a movie. So how they are getting around this and her wishes, I don't know, but I'm sure there'll be more of this in the future. So
I'm sorry, I thought, when you paused, I thought that was when I was supposed to remind you.
No, that's okay.
Don't we have an interview?
we do have an interview
And who
with
might it be with?
Becca Balint.
Should we turn to that now?
I think we should.
Hi, and for this interview, it is our favorite majority leader, Senator Becca Balint of Windham County.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's
Happy
nice
to be here.
It's nice we can get you all off the floor.
Yes. Yes, it is. It's nice to
Because-
get out of that building.
Because you've got lots of things that you're debating, and how this session started is not necessarily how it's going to end.
Yes, it started
So-
a little sleepy, a little bit.
And then you woke up.
Yeah, I was just telling a friend today that when I taught school, we, as teachers, we would say, nothing ever happens after the Christmas break, because it's just like crazy, it's insane.
Yeah.
But that's how we felt, and it kind of feels that way, except in reverse. In the legislature, that you cram in all of this work after town meeting day.
After
until the end.
crossover.
After
Yes, Les.
crossover, yeah, so
And-
we're all sprinting.
And you had a governor who all of a sudden changed position on a very significant
Yes.
issue based upon a real life circumstance.
Yes.
So you all as our legislative body are dutifully responding to that.
We are, and it was, for those of us who've been working on this issue for, sorry, touching the microphone there, I'm not used to having a microphone. For those of us who've been working on this issue for a long time, it is breathtaking how quickly we've been able to move legislation that,
And significant and
Significant,
substantial
yes.
legislation.
because going into the session, we were
Nothing was going to move.
Well, I will say that's not entirely true. We
Okay.
had a plan to move universal background checks before,
Okay.
yes, before Parkland happened.
And you
And
had the
before
domestic violence.
We
age
had domestic
422
violence,
that had come over from the
422,
House.
and the Red Flags Bill 221.
Okay.
And so even though the chair of Senate Judiciary was not interested in moving universal background checks, he made no bones about that, it wasn't going to get out of his committee, we didn't have the votes. It was deadlocked, stuck
Yeah.
in the committee 2-3. Only 2 people in support, 3 against. But as a caucus, we made it really clear
We want something.
we want something, exactly. And the pro tem worked really carefully with the chair to say, this isn't often done in the Senate, but one way or another, we're bringing universal background checks to the floor.
One of the things that we didn't talk about, and I'm going to be very conscious that we have limited
Yeah.
time. Your last interview, we didn't really talk about you as majority leader. How much input do you realistically get in what bills get moved and how they
Right.
get moved?
So the pro tem is really the person who decides what the
Now.
vision is for the chamber and how to direct traffic, both on
Right.
the floor and in committees. My job is to really give a voice to the entire caucus, and not
Okay.
just, that's how I see my job, not
Okay.
just the people who generally have the power. So in the legislature, chairs have more power than other people in their committees, because they can decide what they want to move out and on
What's
what
their
timeframe.
priority?
Or what they're
What's
going to, as
the-
we say, stick up on the wall. They don't even have to take testimony. They could have a bill come in, they don't like the bill, they can stick it on the wall, and it will just die
Those
there.
of us who do advocacy watch that
Yes,
wall, and
of
if our
course.
bill goes over into that column, it's always a sad day.
It is a sad
So,
day. And so I
you've
went
got the
in-
traffic director,
Right.
and you're the person who's saying, and this is what you've got for traffic that will come behind this issue. Basically, this is what you have for support.
This is what you have to support, and what are the issues that the caucus really cares about that you don't feel like leadership is moving enough?
Really listening to.
So we needed to make sure that we had support for minimum wage within the caucus,
Yeah.
because although we have a supermajority in the Senate of those on the left, we run the gamut. We have blue dog Dems who mostly vote Republican, frankly, except on perhaps some social issues. And then we have folks, far to the left. So
I've
you get a
noticed that sitting in the gallery.
Yes, so it's a big tent. And so even an issue that you think won't be controversial sometimes is. So you have to make sure you hear from members of the caucus, if we get out ahead on this issue, are you going
And
to
also
support it?
knowing what you're going to get for resistance, what you're going to
Exactly.
get for pushback. But you've got a list.
I do. I have a list of things
These
that...
are the things that might be of interest to our communities.
Yes, so I want to
And
start...
remember, we only interview out legislators.
I am out
So
and
let's
about.
go.
Okay, so I wanted to say, I don't know if Deanna talked about this at all or any of your other guests, but every year at the State House, the LGBTQ youth community comes for Leadership Day.
Yes, we did.
Okay, and it's one of my favorite days of the year. As a former teacher, as an ongoing educator, I just love having all those young people in the State House. And so we had a big group of students
65.
at the State House, but then a subgroup came to my committee to testify on the gender-neutral bathroom bill. And they were...
Economic development,
Yeah.
H333, the gender-neutral bathroom.
They were amazing. And a lot of them were middle school aged, because we get a range, middle
Yep.
school and high school. And I loved that for many of the people in my committee, but the chair at the time even said, I feel like I'm very clunky on this issue. I don't really understand it.
And why are they so articulate, so well-informed?
Yeah.
And how can they present it so well
Yeah.
at that age?
They were amazing. And I got a little choked up because when I was that age, people
We were kind of gawky. And
well, but it was not a safe place to be out in your school at all. And so that is something I always want to remind them of, even when they feel frustrated that things aren't moving in their eyes very quickly. I say, we have come so far in such a relatively short amount of time.
They got a standing ovation from the House.
That's fantastic.
Life has changed.
Yeah, yeah.
So what else you got?
So I wanted to talk about that and how I'll be shepherding that bill through
Okay,
the Senate chamber. We expect that we have to do a minor tweak about plumbing issues. Turns out, this is what happens. You move a bill, you're looking at the larger issues, and then we have somebody come and say,
what about
this tiny, so we're working on that. We expect we'll have it. Something that is of, I know, great interest to our community is the issue of pay equity.
Absolutely.
Equity and fairness. And so
I saw minimum wage, paid family leave, and pay equity as sort of being the package that would move our community the furthest forward.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's that tension between being part of a community and also wanting people to understand that issues that are important to us are also important to Vermonters writ large. So as
There's
gay,
some personal that is also global.
absolutely. And so I think this has been one of my challenges in trying to convey to my caucus the importance of the family medical
You're a
leave.
sponsor of this, as I recall.
I am a sponsor of it.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Is that people sometimes pigeonhole family medical leave insurance as something that only people who are going to have children will take advantage of. And I keep reminding folks, family in all its forms. We have many, many Vermonters who are aging, and they are going to be taken care of.
Like the people in this room.
Well, hey, I wasn't going there.
It's okay. We do
Right.
frequently.
Does that make you feel better to do that?
I keep amazing myself that I made it to this venerable
Right,
age. So
right.
there we are.
Exactly.
And
Right.
the things that I've seen since the 80s when I started doing advocacy. I've got to tell you, every time I look at you and it's, no. Here
Where's he going with
is-
this? I'm very nervous. What are you
Here
going to say?
is a majority leader in our legislative body who is an unapologetic, proud, confident lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to vote for you for governor.
Oh,
and
you're
we've
very
already
sweet.
decided that we're going to be working on your U.S. Senate campaign.
Well, thank you very much.
7 days has nothing on us.
7 days did a very lovely job.
And we think, okay, so
Okay,
what
okay,
else?
keep going.
Because we have 6
Yes.
minutes left.
Oh, we have 6 minutes left. Okay.
Talk quickly.
Okay. Well, something that I thought would be interesting to talk about is what we started chatting about before, the issue of cybersecurity on a personal level. So,
We were having a discussion about Facebook, which I think is evil, but apparently other people have opposing opinions.
it's not that it is, as a politician right now, it's a necessary evil. My constituents expect me to be on social media. I've been very conflicted. The last few weeks, I've been very conflicted. I wanted to give Zuckerman a big F you like everybody
Exactly.
else, because it is our right to be able to maintain some kind of privacy.
If I'm being merchandised, I want my share of the profits.
Of course,
but-
you want to cut.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you were saying that Facebook is only
Oh,
a small part
very
of
small
what we
part.
need to be looking at.
Well, so we are anticipating that there are somewhere between 2,000 and 25,000 data broker companies
Oh my God.
in the United States. Many of whom might be doing business in Vermont. We know they're doing business in Vermont. Currently, they don't have to be registered as data brokers, so they can mine your information, package it, sell it. They may be selling it for nefarious purposes, it may be fraudulent purposes, and we have no way of monitoring.
But they're selling it.
Yes, and so we want to be able to register these companies.
They're collecting and they're selling it.
Yes.
And so there's a concern about both aspects.
Right.
What are you collecting? How detailed is
Exactly.
it? What is it that you're about to disclose about me?
Right.
And is any piece of this information that would be deemed private to an extent
Right.
of, if this is released, what is the consequence to me?
Exactly, and are there enough pieces of discrete information when put together?
Or indiscreet.
Right, well, or
Exactly.
indiscreet, but if you have enough pieces that you can assemble to then recreate your identity, then it's identity theft that can happen
Well,
sort of writ large.
And then,
Yeah.
then part of, the Cambridge Analytic
Yeah.
Facebook is, I am then crafting a ploy to try and change your perception
Yes.
on a specific
Yes,
issue
it's
or
very disturbing.
individual. And I'm not even aware of the subtlety of that.
That's right.
I mean, I've gotten used to it, but doing all of the online search, and all of a sudden all of the advertisements that are popping
Right.
up correspond to the search.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what is it they're feeding back to me to try and shift and how long have they been doing it?
Right, exactly.
Really?
And so how do you even get a handle on the extent to which this is happening in our everyday lives?
So you have legislation that you're working on?
Yes, it's called the Data Broker Bill. It came.
Is this a Senate or a House bill?
It started in the House,
Okay.
and we've taken it up now in the Senate. And the governor has already said he's opposed to it because there is a fee for these data broker companies to
no
register.
new taxes or fees.
Right. So
Just
there's
uniform.
right.
without-
There's no nuance. There's no subtlety. There's no circumstantial importance. So we, as part of the data broker bill, are saying Vermonters should not have to pay to have their credit frozen or unfrozen. So what we found after the Equifax breach was that if you
That
wanted
impacted all of us, and we
thousands
just may
of
not
Vermonters,
have
thousands
known
and
it.
thousands of Vermonters, and if you wanted to freeze your credit, it was going to cost you $10, and not just for Equifax, Experian, for all the big three, and then it was going to cost you money to have it lifted.
I was
And
going to
so-
say, it wasn't just a one-time fee, as I recall. It was, if I wanted to impose it now, but I wanted it released in this situation, I had to pay again. and-
Yes.
yeah.
So our point was, to the governor, how can you oppose this bill when it's actually saving Vermonters lots and lots of fees and is only imposing a very small fee for sometimes a multi-billion-dollar company? It seems a little
And
absurd.
basically what it's
Yeah.
telling them to do is they have to own up to what their business
What they're
truly
doing,
is.
exactly. What's the business model? How are you making money? How's it impacting Vermonters? And that's what we should be caring about.
So in our last minute.
Yes, my last minute.
Because we get going and then we just,
Yeah. I will tell you something that is personally important to me.
Okay.
It happened at the beginning of the session. I think it will get more attention next session because it is the Equal Rights Amendment
Yes!
reboot.
I keep forgetting about it. Yes.
Yes.
And next year, it has to start in the Senate.
Yes. So it's not easy to pass a constitutional amendment.
It takes 2 consecutive bienniums, positive vote
Right.
coming out both times. And one of the votes has to be a supermajority, right?
I believe, yes. it
Your
has to be-
first vote out of the
Yes.
Senate
I
has to be
think
a
it has to
super.
be 2/3, yeah.
But the House can be a simple majority.
So that may be true. I don't want to say. You probably did
I
the homework.
I did the research on it
Right, yes.
because I was involved with the
Yes.
first Equal Rights Amendment that
Right.
we almost got, and then we
Yes.
lost because our opposition brought up, if you do the Equal Rights Amendment, then you are now ushering in gay marriage.
Yes, gay marriage and, shocking, issues about bathrooms. It always comes back to the bathrooms.
And as you said, the plumbing.
The plumbing,
I-
exactly. I wish I could stay and talk for an hour. It goes like that.
You'll have to come back.
I would be delighted.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for being who you are.
Oh, that's all I can do.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
And
Great
sometimes-
That was a
interview.
lovely interview.
And sometimes it's just too much fun.
I know. And she is so
Oh.
dynamic.
She,
And you are too, of course. But I mean, yes.
we're ready to back her in her gubernatorial campaign, and then when she runs for president.
That's right, Linda and I are going to rent
I
tuxes.
already told her that when she runs for president, she has promised to give me a front row in her
There we go.
ballroom. So,
So our trivia question. That bill that was introduced in 1987, which was our first try at an anti-discrimination bill, 11 co-sponsors, any of them still in the legislature. And the picture that Zach will be putting up, this is Representative Kurt McCormick, who is currently from Burlington, but in 1987 represented Rutland City. Now, he did take a brief break in his legislative career, but of those 11 original co-sponsors, he's the one still standing. So with
right.
that,
I would say good night. Have a good week. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. In the meantime, don't forget, resist.